been hit so many times, I'm immune to it.
When I was growing up, my mother stressed going to Sunday school every Sunday and education. When I was 13 years old, I participated in a march in Chicago for fair housing and equal education with Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King.
We feel that we have to do it this way in order to bring the evil out into the open.
This demonstration opened my eyes to the importance in participating in the fight for freedom and liberation.
America is shocked and saddened by the brutal slaying tonight of Dr. Martin Luther King.
Was he here on this porch when he was shot?
He was talking with me and with Ben Branch, and he had asked Ben Branch to play Precious Lord tonight. It was one of his favorite songs.
Precious Lord, take my hand.
King was the greatest leader our people has ever had, and there'll be no one who can replace him. He was the only one who believed in accomplishing what he really wanted through peace.
For the Black community, that leaves the question, what method are we supposed to use?
The news of Dr. King's assassination sent shockwaves of anger tumbling through the Negro ghettos across the nation. There are countless reports of windows being smashed, stores looted, buildings burned.
People were calling for justice and calling for change. Black Panthers saw an opportunity to become catalysts for that change. I see parallels between the Black Panther movement and Black Lives Matter. What was happening then and what we saw in Ferguson and what we sort of continue to see. The Black Panther Party was founded by Huey P. Newton and Bobby Seale in Oakland.
We must arm ourselves. We have to put a shotgun in every door so we can have the power in our hands.
It was founded to provide, protection to a community that was tired of being brutalized by the police.
We didn't just say we want an end to police brutality. Hands up, don't shoot. We said be armed for self-defense against the police forces of the United States of America.
Militant blacks turned out today to mourn the death of Black Panther Bobby Hutton. The 17-year-old was fatally shot following a gun battle with Oakland police and Black Panthers last weekend.
All power to the people!
Bobby Hutton was surrendering. He came out of the house with his hands in the air, and they shot him 17 times. My name is Kathleen Cleaver. I was the communications secretary of the Black Panther Party in the San Francisco Bay Area. That particular episode turned the tables in terms of generating enormous support for the party.
Black is beautiful!
It's a new generation of young people able to say, black is beautiful. We're proud to be black.
Dig it? Isn't it beautiful? All right.
My afro was so big and thick I couldn't even put on a beret. We were stylistically confronting the culture. The Black Panthers, for the most part, were high school and college kids. The group started in Oakland, and people would organize chapter. We're the Panthers in New York.
I was going to UCLA, and I walked into the Black Panther Party office only days after Bobby Hutton had been killed, and right after Dr. King was killed. I made the commitment to lay down my whole life. My name is Elaine Brown. I was a member of the Southern California chapter of the Black Panther Party. Growing up in Philadelphia, I was going to schools that were supposedly very prestigious, dominated mostly by well-to-do children who were mostly white. I was a poor black girl, never had a bed of my own. We had mice, in fact, rats. So I would be white at school and black at home.
There was a huge disparity in the country, with white America experiencing a period of post-war prosperity, and with black people, brown people, indigenous people experiencing the polar opposite. For a young black man or woman in high school or college, It had to have been frighteningly stark sort of reality, to face.
Everything would be all right if everything was put back in the hands of the people. And we're going to have to put it back in the hands of the people.
I'm going to tell you, when Fred Hampton was 18 years old, his mother's phone was wiretapped by the FBI because they recognized his ability to organize.
In high school, Fred Hampton had led walkouts at the school to get more black teachers and administrators. The local police considered Fred a troublemaker. The FBI opened a file on him in '67 and put him on the agitator list. The index was something that Hoover, the head of the FBI, created, and it was a listing of people who they saw as a threat to law and order.
Everybody in the state of Illinois is going to have to be involved or even around the revolution because we're going to have one.
Fred Hampton got drafted into the party to be deputy chairman of the Illinois chapter of the Black Panther Party. When I was a senior in high school, I saw the Black Panthers on the TV.
We got to start getting out there with the people. Come on in, little brother.
I was looking at this TV.
Let me give you an example.
Here was this eloquent Chairman Fred Hampton talking about the Panthers Free Medical Center and the breakfast program.
Sit down, man. Everybody gonna need y'all can eat as much as y'all want to.
And we not only feed the children's stomach, we feeding up here. And I was like, damn, they serious with this thing.
We got to understand here, the educational program that you have.
I knew it when I saw him. Someone be with him. Not because he was on TV, but because of his conviction. I met Fred Hampton when the Panthers came up to Wright City College. So I had brought my little poetry book. I'm on, mesmerized Chairman Fred with my poetry. And I said, excuse me, brother, Chairman Fred, what you think about poetry? He said, sister, if the poetry is not reflective of the struggle of the people, it means nothing. I'm not with just poetry for poetry's sake. I hear my little book behind my back and say, me either, brother. That's how we first met. And from that day on, we was together.
I visited Fred Hampton in Chicago. We all went to where Fred was gathering the troops, as it were, to start the breakfast program. Fred always gave these pep talks. Here was this young guy exciting all these thugs from the projects.
I don't believe I'm gonna die from sitting on a piece of ice. I don't believe I'm gonna die because I got a bad heart. I believe that I will be able to die as a revolutionary. Why don't you live for the people? Why don't you struggle for the people? Why don't you die for the people?
Power to the people. Just killed me to watch this transformation of all of these young people who yesterday were fighting each other and are now serving and cooking breakfast in churches. Are you kidding? And this charismatic young guy who had a way, like Dr. King.
This is a nation of laws. No one is above the law. No one is below the law. And we're going to enforce the law, and Americans should remember that if we're going to have law and order.
Nixon ran as a law and order president. Nixon would use any means to try to destroy the opposition. Cointelpro stood for Counterintelligence Program, created by Hoover, the FBI director, secretly operated inside the FBI. Hundreds of FBI agents all over the country went undercover and conducted illegal spying.
The whole idea of Cointelpro was to create distrust, to discredit and destroy the Black Panther Party.
I, Richard Billhouse Nixon, do solemnly swear.
Hoover and Nixon saw this as a civil war.
That I will faithfully execute the office
of President of the United States.
Of President of the United States.
They did it illegally and secretly, and they were going to neutralize the Panthers. That means kill.
So help you God.
So help me God.
Gil Scott-Heron's song, Whitey on the Moon, was speaking about the reality of poor black people in America.
How come I ain't got no money here? Whitey's on the moon. You know, I just about had my fill of Whitey on the moon. I think I'll send these doctor bills. Air, mail, special.
The white man going up to the moon, where he will be glorified, but we will still be wallowing in poverty and left behind. Poor children can't eat moon rocks.
When I officially joined the party, I was 18 years old, and the first thing I did was get a natural. The worst thing I did, my mother said later, was not join the Black Panther Party, but getting an afro. Some of us got kicked out of our house, our parents' homes. Some of us dropped out of school, lost our jobs. We were committed to this struggle. Chairman had me go find an apartment that was near the office. And you could feel the wind blowing through the apartment. And we had a space heater. We used the stove for heat.
We got to start learning, and you learn through practice. We got to start making mistakes, and you learn through making mistakes.
People who knew Chairman Fred, they say he wasn't afraid of anything. So there's a lot of people playing with this politics, but Chairman Fred was sincere.
J. Edgar Hoover had a mandate to prevent the rise of a messiah who could unify and electrify the black masses.
You can't do it unless you believe that you can do it.
Fred Hampton fit the description of that person.
And he stood for what he fought and lived for, power to the people.
Everything would be all right if everything was put back in the hands of the people. And we're going to have to put it back in the hands of the people.
Chairman Fred had issued a mandate that we had to start going to church because the people were in church. He said, don't go in there cussing, don't go in there telling them that picture of that white Jesus they got up there. So you sit there, you see where they at, and see if you can put a breakfast program in there.
Every sisters ought to get themselves together and come on down and help us with that breakfast children program. Y'all here come down and help feed them children in the morning.
In a maniacal fashion, Richard Nixon's able to direct J. Edgar Hoover of the FBI into infiltrating the Black Power movement, bugging, taping.
J. Edgar Hoover said that. We're not concerned about the Panthers and their little guns. You know, the United States government has more guns than any single entity we can think of. He said we're more concerned with the butter. In other words, we are concerned with them spreading a message through these programs. The Panthers are a small group, but what happens when 1 million black people start taking up their cause, their ideals?
Nixon wants to destroy the Black Panthers. He's at open warfare with what he considers radicalism. What Richard Nixon's trying to do is control, in his mind, the anarchy, the unraveling of America that's going on. And he's deeply concerned, his administration, about the Black Panthers. He sees them as the enemy of the American people. What happens if African Americans become angry and armed?
Chairman Fred used to say, if you reach the age of 21 and you haven't made a conviction to live and die for something, when you do die, it's just a cessation of breathing. You've been dead a long time.
Today we talk about people hacking into things. Well, Nixon was doing hacking, but it was just done with planting FBI informants.
Well, a typical meeting between my FBI contact, Mitchell, would be down in the basement of some dark bar.
William O'Neill was an informant. He was a street guy who liked to do things like burglaries and steal cars.
And the police contacted him and said, we know about that hit and run you did. We're going to be in touch with you.
I got a call from this FBI agent by the name of Roy Mitchell. And he said, I'm sure we can work it out. He directed me into the Panthers, and then when I got there, he backed off. And I became a Black Panther in a way. So they appointed me as a security captain. That was the first time I met Fred Hampton, and for about 7 months I was his personal bodyguard. He wouldn't go anywhere without me.
We very confident that nobody's coming in the front door. But I just wish they would come tonight. Once you know that.
Every time black people fight back, there is a white uprising. And the Nixon years really are a white backlash against what was a powerful Black Power movement.
In the pre-dawn hours in Chicago today, police and Negroes fought a pitched battle at the state headquarters of the Black Panther Party.
The Black Panther police shootout lasted 30 minutes. During it, 5 policemen were wounded, but only one seriously. The 3 Panthers were injured. The Panthers accused the police of deliberately destroying the headquarters.
We here? We ain't going nowhere.
We saw an escalation by the police, by the state.
Fred Hampton was the most amazing, captivating, brilliant leader. I heard this story, I don't know if it's true, but after Martin Luther King's assassination in Chicago, a policeman walked up beside Fred Hampton and said, "You're next." He was next.
We gotta sock it to them from now on out, and that's what they want to do.
By 1969, the Kumbaya years of the early 60s are replaced by the Star-Spangled Banner all mangled by Jimi Hendrix. Bob Dylan had a great song, and he goes, "Do you, Mr. Jones?" Mr. Jones was supposed to be the establishment.
And during that time, you began to see a change. The war in Vietnam had come full course.
The bitter and bloody Battle of Chicago was fought in the streets.
The Democratic Convention in Chicago in 1968 became the staging ground for the anti-war movement.
Bobby Seale, back then, he was asked to come and make a speech.
We are here as revolutionaries to let them know that we refuse to accept those political decisions that maintain the oppression of our black people.
Bobby Seale was charged with being in a conspiracy with me and 7 others to foment riots in Chicago.
Today, 8 men went on trial in the Chicago federal court on conspiracy charges resulting from last year's violence.
So he was facing 10 years in prison for making 2 speeches.
The charges were pretty trumped up.
Seale insists he is not represented by an attorney of his choice and has demanded the right to act as his own counsel.
Bobby Seale comes out chained and shackled to his chair.
And Bobby bleeding profusely around the mouth and the lips as they tried to jam this piece of object into his mouth to silence him.
So your brother's bound and gagged, and they've chained him to a chair. Won't you please come to Chicago just to sing?
Chicago was a song that swept the nation.
None of the other defendants were chained and gagged.
It was the most shocking, racist, colonial moment.
If you're thinking about rising up in this way, what this says to you is don't speak, don't move, don't even think about it.
Bobby Seale is going through all types of physical and mental torture. So we're going to see about Bobby, regardless of what these people think we should do.
Fred was becoming more than just a local figure. He was becoming something of a national figure.
You can jail revolutionaries, but you can't jail a revolution.
Chairman Fred was just 21 years old. He didn't have a sleep time. He had to go, do this, do that, do this, do that.
People that we're asking for peace, they're a bunch of megalomaniac warmongers, and they don't even understand what peace means, so we've got to fight them.
I felt like I was a revolutionary when I heard Fred Hampton speak. We were doing security for the Black Panthers. For me to stand up there on the stage, it was exhilarating, actually. A white hillbilly doing security for Black Panthers. You know, can you imagine that? My name's Hy Thurman. I'm co-founder of the Young Patriots in Chicago.
One of the things that's good about the Young Patriots is they're all interested in the problems they got here. You know, and they want to change them.
Young Patriots was a group of mostly Southern Appalachian poor folks that moved to Chicago to find a better way of life, only to find a lot of poverty.
after the here.
Coming from the South, most of us were raised to be racist.
These people, they still had the Confederate flag up. They wore it on their damn head. And if you say, oh, you shouldn't be talking to them white people, you know. Chairman Fred said, we're going to talk to everybody.
I mean, how we going to fight guns? Don't get hung up on that. They ain't going to stop cracking our heads, man.
Chairman had the vision to say there are some universal things that are going on.
But I want you people to stick together, and I'll stick with Black Panthers, they'll stick with me, and I know they will.
That's what took people to become part of the Rainbow Coalition.
We said white power was the white people.
We were determined to work together to break down racial barriers, to fight poverty, and basically to fight the system.
All power to all people.
We were true brothers and sisters in the revolution.
Politics is nothing but war without bloodshed, and war is nothing but politics with bloodshed.
The Black Panther Party were seen as an enemy of the state.
I tried to come up with signs of Fred doing drugs or something, and never could. He was clean. I routinely supplied whatever floor plans or diagrams to the FBI. I do remember drawing up a diagram of the apartment.
I know it's gonna be some Panthers dying. We ain't gonna worry about that. We dying anyway.
At one point, Fred felt like he was a focal point of a national agency to get him, and they were gonna get him one way or the other.
Chairman Fred would shake me, wake me up. Listen to this, listen to this. It's a little raggedy record player we had. Someday we'll be together. Diana Ross and the Supremes. But he'd do a speech about all the revolutionaries that have gone, meeting up in revolutionary happy hunting ground. So I'm going to see Lil Bobby Hutton. And he would go through this list. You did? Right on, Chairman. I did.
Sammy was murdered, John Huggins.
Black Panther Party was under attack everywhere we were.
Right around November, 2 police officers were killed by a Black Panther member. Mitchell became more specific. He needed to know who was staying at what locations, the girlfriends, and who was, pregnant, and he requested more detail. And I knew why.
It was seriously cold. People say if you can survive a winter in Chicago, you could survive anything. O'Neill was sent to pick me up from my girlfriend's house that night to bring me back home. There were about 10 people in the house. Chairman and myself went to our bedroom in the rear of the apartment. He fell asleep immediately. I didn't think anything strange about that. The first thing I remember was...
Someone came into the room, started shaking the chair. The
Chairman, wake up, wake up. Pigs are vamping, the pigs are vamping. When the pigs knocked on our door, it said, open up. Defense Captain Mark Clark said, who's there? The pig responded, Tommy gun, and kicked in the door and began spraying.
I saw bullets coming from it looked like the front of the apartment.
Sparks of light.
Pigs to shoot.
I had slid over on top of Chairman Fred. I don't know what I was thinking or what I was doing. I just moved over and covered his body.
He didn't move. Just moving his head up.
It was like he was going in slow motion.
He laid his head back down to the side like that. Never said a word, never got up out the bed.
That shooting maybe lasted 5 minutes, seemed like 5 hours. Because you don't know if you're going to live or die.
The person was in the room, they kept calling out, stop shooting, stop shooting. We have a pregnant woman or pregnant sister in here. At the time, I was 8.5 to 9 months pregnant. Pigs kept on shooting.
Eventually, the shooting stopped. I remember crossing out of the bed, sliding into Chairman Fred's house shoes, and thinking to myself, keep your hands up, don't stumble, don't fall. They will kill you and your baby. I remember coming out between two lines of police, and they were laughing, grabbed me by the top of my hair, and slung me into the kitchen area. Somebody said,
he's barely alive, he'll barely make it. I assume they talked about Chairman Fred.
The shooting started back again.
Big said, he's good in bed now.
I remember thinking to myself, do not look in the direction of that bedroom. I knew I could not break down there. I did see Defense Captain Mark Clark laying on the floor in the living room in a pool of blood. The police arrested us and charged aggravated assault, attempted murder. When I was handcuffed, the police said, you better not run, you better not try to escape. And he kept pressing that gun to my belly. So my child felt that cold steel. Not always, but sometimes back there.
The immediate, violent, criminal reaction of the occupants in shooting at announced police officers emphasizes the extreme viciousness of the Black Panther Party.
Edward V. Hanrahan, then state's attorney, got on television and talked about the vicious attack by the Black Panther Party.
They built a whole set to make people believe, and there were people that did believe it.
There's a woman lying on a bed with a shotgun, calmly pumping it, pointed in my direction, and fires.
None of them could explain what had become of this shot.
I then step back here, point my revolver, and fire several shots at the girl.
Only by the grace of God.
Only by the grace of God were his brave, courageous men spared. He had gotten on national TV and lied about what happened.
You are the ones who are going to decide for yourselves whether or not Fred Hampton and Mark Clark were the victims of premeditated murder.
The police did not seal off the apartment. And so the Panthers opened the apartment up.
Don't touch nothing, don't move nothing. We want to keep everything just the way it is.
And actually took people on tours.
This is where our chairman had his brains blown out. He lay in his bed, sleeping at 4:30 in the morning.
People came from all over the country. And in the deep, cold ice, snow, they stood in line.
The ballistics expert put dowels through the bullet holes.
And the sticks were still stuck in the hole to see the trajectories of the bullets. 90% of the bullets were aimed at the bed where Chairman Fred slept.
They fired through the door and hit the brother through the door.
The federal grand jury concludes that only one could have come from a Panther weapon. And that shot would have come through the door by a man who had just been shot in the heart.
What happened here was nothing more than murder.
Based on available evidence, the mission of the police was to murder and maim.
This blatant act of legitimatized murder strips all credibility from law enforcement.
What they didn't understand, what Edward V. Hanrahan doesn't understand,
is that you can't kill Chairman Fred.
Right on!
What they didn't understand is that pigs die, but Chairman Fred lives.
But you can't deal a revolution.
thousands of people came to that service to pay homage to Chairman Fred.
He said, but you have to remember one thing, and that's be strong. He wasn't afraid of anything.
When Chairman Fred was assassinated, attacks, what they call raids, went on all over the country.
Here in Los Angeles, we felt that something was about to happen. We didn't know what was going to happen, when it was going to happen.
Around 5 o'clock in the morning is when we started to move into the position to make the raid. My name is Calvin Drake. I had the pleasure of being a member of the first SWAT detail that was ever formed anywhere in the United States. We were going to serve search warrants and arrest warrants for the people who were there. There was an informant in the building, an FBI informant. He said that the people in there were well armed and there was a possibility for officers to be injured.
I was on the roof, I was on watch, and it was a quiet night.
The building itself was surrounded completely with policemen in varying locations, some in the alley in the back and some on the streets close by.
I heard a metal thing going. The door on the other side on that roof slammed open, and as I was spinning back around, it was like, a large squad of police with guns. I could see their guns pointing at me, and then they rushed over on me. But meanwhile, I started screaming down to the brothers.
We hit the door with a ram. Almost immediately after that, gunfire began.
One of our people opened up on their asses when that door came down.
I felt an impact in my right ankle, and I knew I'd been hit.
You come to our office at 3 in the morning with a battering ram, and you've taken off all the cars off the street. You got sharpshooters. You want to act like this was just what? Serving a warrant?
I heard an explosion on the roof. I'm looking at a gaping hole from the ceiling. I grab an automatic shotgun and I fire back at the people that are shooting down at us. And then I grab cover because there were snipers on the other side of the street. We were like pipe bombs dropping through the window.
I woke up that morning and turned on Channel 5.
Dynamite, tear gas, automatic rifles, and hand grenades. All were used today in a battle between Los Angeles police and Black Panthers.
And once I got down there, I seen what was going on. Central Avenue was like a ghost town, and all you heard was gunfire, explosions. Boom, 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 boom.
Burst of gunfire, a group of nearby blacks cheered the Panthers on.
I'm trying to figure out how I could sneak in the back. Because I knew everybody that was in there. It was 9 men and 2 women. 10 men and 2 women, because Gil Parker was on the roof.
They were doing me in, I was getting beat the whole time. They were trying to shove me towards the skylight, which they had shot out. And I resisted all I could with my body when they were trying to move me and maneuver me and try to make dead weight. It didn't faze me. I figured I'm not going to make it off here anyway, so I just laid there. Looked up at the sky and saw it was a beautiful blue skies and hardly a cloud, and I thought it was a nice, beautiful day to die. This is what I'm here for. This is what I was thinking.
5 hours that gun battle lasted.
It was futile to keep it going. Peaches was the first one out the building with a white flag.
When I joined the party, like almost everyone I know, you knew at that moment that you were committing your life to the people and to the struggle. One of the brothers that was there, Wayne Farr, he said, in the beginning it's fearful, all these bullets are just coming in it. And then after that he said, for the first time I felt like a free black man.
We were supposed to be killed in our sleep, and it didn't happen like that.
We only had 11 people in the office. But our 11 people fought back for 5.5 hours.
Los Angeles Police Department was the first place that the SWAT team was ever put together. Now, every police department in the country, if of any size, has a SWAT team. That's a pretty good legacy.
This is just one of the newer armies that have been brought into the black community. The Black Panther Party is the prime target, but they are rapidly moving on the rest of the black community, and that is why we are united, and that is why we must unite, because we cannot stand these oppressive foreign troops in our communities. All power to the people.
It's a statement that resonated throughout the community of Los Angeles, that the Panthers were a force to be reckoned with.
Earlier this year, Attorney General John Mitchell and Hoover made a statement to the effect that by January 1st, 1970, there would be no Black Panther Party, and we contend that they are rushing to meet this deadline.
I think that what the Black Panthers represent is what there's an intent to break up. So it was at Malcolm X, so it was at Martin King, so it was at Fred Hampton, so it is that those who are symbolic of challenging America's injustice tend to have to die.
The Black Panther Party had won the ideological battle of winning the hearts and minds of the people. But the Black Panther Party was militarily assaulted and defeated by the United States government.
One by one, they were actually taken from the public eye. This was not an accident. This was the targeted destruction of the Panther Party by the FBI in conjunction with local police.
You got Panthers that never got out of prison since '69. '69 was like what I call the year of the Panthers. Over 200 Panthers went to jail. Over 40 Panthers got killed.
I know that they never imagined how violent their world would become just fighting for the rights of black people. Some of the violence we know was by the state. Some of the violence we know was by infiltrators. And some of the violence, it's hard to say out loud, but is done by folks inside the movement.
There were many arrests, many assaults on the Black Panther Party. It didn't stop the growth of the party. So they realized they had to twist it. They had to infiltrate it. They had to essentially make you think your enemy is your friend and your friend is your enemy. And basically the party split.
Chairman Fred took a position that we love the people and we are willing and we know that the ultimate sacrifice can happen, has happened. In fact, what Chairman Fred did happen.
It was a long time that I felt guilty that Chairman Fred was assassinated and I didn't die. I used to say that if I gave up, the ghost of Chairman Fred would haunt me to this day because we still not free. Power to the people has not become a reality.
I feel like there's an overall collective understanding that, together, a people, is stronger than, they are separately. Each movement, each act of protest raises the stakes.
The Panthers overstepped their bounds. They got in too much of a war and too much violence with authorities, but they raised a consciousness about a lot of issues about otherness in America, what it means to be non-white, what it means to have to feel empowered yourself.
Those issues that we addressed in 1969 are very relevant again today. The question is, what are we as the American people going to do about it, and how can we come together? Ain't no violence by the people, 'cause the power of the people don't stop.